And I found myself looking at Twitter, and I had this odd epiphany. I had this epiphany that I'd stopped searching for stuff, because all the things I cared about were coming to me. I was discovering them. And I was thinking about the idea of discovery versus search, and what the implications of that and what they mean going forward. So after Glue, as Eric said a moment ago, I was thinking about how to try to bring together a panel that had a lot of meaning to me and hopefully would have a lot of meaning to you. So we reached out and we got Robert Rich on my far right and Scott Beaudreau next to me, and my technical assistant here, Mr. Scoble. And so yesterday when we were getting ready for this panel, we kind of had a little food fight outside where Scoble was levitating about some things, and we'll try to get to that. But you know, I'm going to let the really smart guys, you know, with Scoble and I off to the left, talk about what's really happening in search today, and how they would contrast search versus discovery. So Robert, take it.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
No.
My mic's not on, I don't think. I can talk really loud if you like.
No.
I'll do this
So I could see. There we go, that's better.
There we go.
Thank you. So Robert Rich with One Riot. How many people have tried One Riot in the room? Those that haven't, that have computers, please do it now. I'm just kidding. So One Riot is a real-time search engine. What that means and kind of what's different from what Microsoft and what Bing will talk about is we look at a different set of signals. We look at signals that are driven by the social web, things like people that share content on Twitter. We have a panel of toolbar users that have downloaded, that share data with us. We look at Dig, and we look at other sources. And we use that information to rank the results in real time. And I think we'll get into more details as we go through that.
Sure. So Scott, discovery comes to you in different ways. How?
Well, so that's my mic. Just keep talking. So discovery is interesting in that we often think of discovery as an activity stream. You're hitting a dig, you're hitting Twitter, and you're getting results real time that way. But it actually has been around in search for a while to some lesser degree. So ads are a form of discovery, perhaps not the kind that most of us have in mind, but it does happen there. Recently, we've also seen related queries to your query, which are not exactly what you're trying to find, but they're interesting, and maybe you can discover that. They can have sort of the conceptual discovery, this categorized search notion that we have in Bing. The table of contents might have interesting other aspects or facets to what you're querying. Another kind of discovery is what we've done recently with taking the real-time stuff, taking the Twitter results, for example, and allowing those to be found in a normal query. And so what you now have is the ability to find essentially the things on the web according to the way we rank and do that normally, as well as discover things related to that query. But you know, another kind of discovery really leaves the search experience and starts out in other applications. You know, I use Facebook quite often. That's where I do a lot of discovery. So I think there's a wide range of opportunities for discovery, and in actually a lot of cases, an opportunity to have search initiated from those experiences as well.
So Scoble, you've been running around Silicon Valley. What do you see? You've suddenly become enamored with lists.
Well, lists, but I see this river going by us. This is just a few thousand people aimed at this screen. And this river, so this is just a small little fraction of what's going on. On Twitter, 45 million people. On Twitter, 350 million or 325 million on Facebook. And this river is just roaring by, and I'm looking for things to pull out of the river that add value to my life.
So before we talked about, we did a starfish example.
Yeah.
So tell
well, I drew it with bugs on my whiteboard, and I keep brainstorming on my whiteboard. And I noticed 2 years ago that my behavior on the internet was changing. In 2000, it was only about blogging, right? And then Flickr came out, and then it was about blogging and photography, and then YouTube came out. It was blogging, photography, and video. And now we do, you know, all sorts of behaviors on all sorts of different sites, like Yelp. We do little restaurant reviews, and upcoming.org. I put my bank calendar, and all of that feeds together into the starfish. So FriendFeed is an example of an aggregator that aggregates all of the behavior I participate on the internet and puts it together. Facebook is the one that most people will know, but Facebook bought FriendFeed. But I just love to live stream because it gives you a real sense of the river, of how much is going on right now. These things are being put into the system right now by people in the audience or around the world.
So, but then how do Scott and Robert, how do these guys deal with that river?
Well,
or let them talk about how they deal with the river. How do you guys do it?
Well, I'll tell you one way that they are, right? I was one of the first people in the United States to tell somebody else there was an earthquake, a huge earthquake in China, because I was watching something like this going on my screen. I said, earthquake, 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 while it was happening, right? 3 minutes before the USGS website had a report up, and it usually is pretty fast. And this whole world was happening in a river, right? It was rushing by. And then we started connecting these people and started bringing in other news sources. And these guys can add context and bundle those things together. So, you know, I just was searching one riot for AMD and Intel this morning, right? Because they just announced a settlement deal. Well, one riot can put that into some context, and so can Bing and so can Google.
So what do you guys think? I mean, you're seeing this mess, you know, this mess. I mean, I don't know how you can make any sense of it other than the blur of it all, but how would you guys make sense of it?
Well, I think context is kind of an interesting point about this. In some ways, Robert, you're adding context to what you were doing. You found and you discovered some things, essentially, it came to you, and then you added context, and that includes reputation context, relevance context, and then you sort of categorize that. And that's a very key part of the ecosystem. But then there's the question of, given that entire stream, how do you find the context in that? How do you relate those things? And how do you map it? So, for example, to a specific query, that's a really hard problem. There's a lot of issues we can talk about why that's a hard problem.
Why is it a hard problem?
Well, for example, when you're doing your normal query and your search results, you can take advantage of these tokenizers and these parsers, right? But it's different. People are kind of using a bunch of abbreviations and shorthand. It's compressed space. So it's a little harder for our existing technology as it is today to parse that very cleanly. It's something that can easily be fixed. It just takes a little time. Yeah. Another thing that's challenging about that is...
Go, Rob.
I would add, just like you did when you were blogging, you're publishing, right? What you did is you made some associations, and then you added your own content, and then you republished to the Twitter platform.
Right.
I think what's interesting here as well is you've got what you're calling a river, right? But what's also interesting is you need filtering, right? And that's kind of where you're going, is how do you filter this information for me, for you, for Robert, for Buzz, for anybody in the audience?
But it's filtering it on the screen. We've all seen this news story, right? Plane crashes into the Hudson. The guy on the rescue boat has an iPhone, takes a picture of it, puts it on TwitPic. Everybody in the audience knows that picture and knows that tweet. It's really hard to find that tweet. I spent a half an hour searching Bing, searching Google, searching OneRiot this morning for that original tweet. So that I finally figured out how to find it. But it's really hard to go back and study a news event, you know, and remove all the noise, because if you go to search.twitter.com and search for that Twitter, you can't find it.
Right.